Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Exceptional Life. I'm your host, Jason Safford, founder of Exceptional Results Now and author of Winning with Exceptionalism. And today, my guest is very special to me because he is one of my students, Mike Morawski. Mike is an entrepreneur, 30 plus years real estate investment veteran. He has controlled over nearly 300 million in real estate transactions. And additional to that, Mike is an author, a real estate trainer, a public speaker, and a personal coach with strong personal resilience and a deep desire to help others live an extraordinary life. And in my case, an exceptional life. So, Mike, tell our listeners your story. Tell us about you.
Hey, Jason, first, let me say thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's good to uh, spend some time with you from this vantage point today. So I've been in real estate for about 30 years. I love real estate. It's my passion. And, people ask me why I like real estate so much. And I say, well, it's because I learn something new all the time. Everybody I talk to, whether it's somebody I coach, whether it's somebody I work with, I get the opportunity to learn something new. And I'm a people person and I like that relationship aspect of it. But I was in the general contracting business. And one morning I woke up and I was burnt out. I said, I can't do this anymore. And I sold that company and took a year off. And during that time, I took a year off. My wife and I at the time did a couple of house hacks. And this was long before house hacking was sexy, right? Now it's like
It's the thing.
it's the thing to do, right? But we did this long before it was sexy. And during that time, was flipping a two flat and had it redone. And I really thought, geez, maybe I should go in the real estate business. So the realtor who helped us sell that, I went to him and said, hey, Todd, I'd like to go in the real estate business. And he's like, I think you'd be great at it. I think you got great possibilities and you're a good sales guy. And so I decided to go into real estate business. I asked him though, if he would help me, if he would teach me what he did, because he was so successful. And like I said, I've always believed success leaves clues. And he said, I'll tell you what, let me make you a cassette tape. Now, I say that because that kind of dates me a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
What's that?
But yeah, a lot of listeners might say, like, well, what? But, I listen to that tape over and over and over again. I equate it to a podcast today, like what we're doing right now. People can rewind, listen to something, go back, get more out of it. And I listened to that and I did the principles that he taught me on that tape. My first 8 months in the real estate business, I sold 78 houses and went on to build a team to sell 125 homes a year. Did that consecutively for about 8 years consistently. Went in 2005, I saw the market starting to shift. And I knew that if I didn't do something else, my lifestyle was going to change because the market was going to change. So I decided to go in the apartment business. I had always wanted to do that. I understood the private equity model. I understood the syndication model. And I knew that if I raised private equity, married a great real estate deal, everything went well, that everybody made money. So I went in, I syndicated my first apartment deal. It was a small 11 unit deal in Chicago. And I did that. Uh, and after that, I raised $18 million, bought $60 million worth of real estate. It was about 4,000 apartments in 5 different states. And we scaled that business in about 30 months. I built a property management company managing 7,500 units. And today I'm in the coaching and training space. So I've taken years of knowledge and experience and put it on a platform to give back and help other people learn.
That's amazing, Mike. And, just to think, how you saw trends and you sort of jumped on each trend at a certain time. And, I can only imagine for someone, that you're coaching today, that type of knowledge that you're sharing with them. Tell me a little bit more about, again, where that came from in terms of being able to recognize, you got to shift but also your desire to constantly grow and sort of build these companies to a bigger and bigger level?
It's an interesting question, right? I don't know where it came from. Here's what I know though, that I've always spotted those trends for the most part. Uh, I was with a buddy of mine one day. We were going to his boat that was up in the chain of lakes, not far from where we lived. And we were driving down the road, and I said, "Hey, we ought to put a White Hen here on the corner." White Hen used to be a small little convenience store in the Midwest that was very popular. He goes, "Oh, no way. That's crazy. That'll never go there." I kid you not. Like a month later, we are going to the boat again, and there's a sign on the corner. They're breaking ground for a White Hen. And
Wow.
and that was one of those times I thought, God, I have a knack for this.
Yeah.
And I did. I saw those trends. I saw those things happening. Um, and for the most part, I was able to catch that. And I don't know that I got in front of it a lot of times, but I actually got the, in the mix of it and was able to make some money, be successful in some of those trends.
Yeah. So obviously there's a drive there, and that drive led you to, go after things. And, you achieved a certain amount of success that's pretty significant, to, probably most of our listeners. What was it that you could point to that allowed you to keep finding that success? Was there a habit that you picked up that you knew? Was there a book that you read that you just started following? Was there a person that you modeled after? I mean, there had to be some. You said success leaves clues.
Yeah. So, I- Jason, I've read 1,500 books over the years. I didn't go to college. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. Started my first business when I was 23 years old. I've been self-employed ever since. I basically say I'm unemployable today, right? So finding a job today is, I, you know, you can't do that when you have 30 years of being an entrepreneur, right? I was an
Hmm.
entrepreneur long before that was sexy.
Yeah.
People back then used to go, what? You do what? So, that was always left for the big major corporations, right? Anyhow, I think that it was a combination of everything, right? It was watching other guys that I did work for, business owners, and saying, I could do that. I've read this book. I understand these principles. I know what business principles look like, what coaching principles look like, and I've read a lot of biographies to see where some of this success is. You just follow the success of other people, and that's what I did in real estate, right? It's like I went into the apartment business, and I didn't know much, but when I was in the construction business, I watched a company that today is the largest syndicator, the largest REIT, which is a real estate investment trust in the world.
Hmm.
Four high school teachers started a company. They bought their first 4-unit building in a suburb of Chicago. And today they're the largest REIT in the world. I understood that model and I watched it. So, I just modeled what other people did, right? I think too many people try to reinvent the wheel. And by us trying to reinvent the wheel, it causes delays. It cogs the system, right?
Yeah.
So if you just do what other people have done before you, your chances of being successful are greater.
Yeah. You know, um, that word success and also the word exceptional often get misunderstood. Too often people associate exceptionalism with perfection, and they don't understand that both exceptionalism and success are based more on learning from failures and mistakes. And you know, being an entrepreneur, the most successful entrepreneur is one who fails fast and fails often. That's what they talk about. So what is it for you that you've learned over 30 years that, in terms of your failures and mistakes really has helped you to become the coach and entrepreneur you are today?
To get back up when you fall down. Don't let stubbing your toe or stumbling take you out of the game.
Hmm.
Um, you know, listen, I've made millions of dollars and I've lost it all. But I think I grew up with a work ethic that I got from my dad that just said work hard. And that's what I've learned to do over the years is work hard. And which is not always, sweat and blood, sweat and tears. A lot of times it's just think differently, right? So some of those work hard things are like, hey, shut your cell phone off, close your laptop, walk away for a few hours and think something through.
Right.
You know,
Right.
go have a substantial conversation instead of a text conversation with somebody. I believe that there's principles that get ignored in the marketplace today, but we should look at every day
Hmm.
that help your business grow and help you grow. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing. Nothing changes in your business world until you change personally.
Right. Right. So that's awesome, Mike. I mean, thank you for that, because the more that, that sinks in, just as I listen to it, I think about, again, the way in which I go about trying to coach people on, their 24 hours that they have today, and the fact that, sometimes it isn't just about routine. It's about recognizing when you have to step back even from your own routines.
Right.
And, in your case, you built to a certain amount of success, and, now you're coaching. What happened?
It's a great question, Jason. So I built that company,
Mm.
had 4,000 apartments and had a big management company, had 138 employees. We were in 5 different states around the country. And, I actually had guys in the real estate business that I had sold real estate for years said, hey, you hit the big time. And, all of a sudden the market hit a wall. 2008, I'm sitting with my CFO at lunch and the news happened to be on. And I looked at the news and I said, and they were carrying boxes out of Lehman Brothers. And I don't mean just a couple of people, I mean, everybody was
Mhm.
carrying boxes out of Lehman Brothers. And I looked at my CFO and I said, we're screwed, aren't we? He goes, yeah, we're in big trouble. So, all those trends that I saw coming over the years, I don't necessarily know that I saw this coming. I knew the market in 2005 was softening and I knew there was opportunity, but I didn't know what was going to happen. I bought 4,000 apartments in 30 months, hit a wall, the economy imploded, and the residential world blew up. I thought that the commercial business would stay put, and we kept buying. I was over leveraged. If I look at my business today with the stepping back and looking in, I bought too many properties way too fast. I was over leveraged, which means I was at 85% loan to value when I would not coach anybody to being any better than 70 to 65% loan to value. I didn't raise enough money from my investors. I took my eye off the goal. I didn't pay attention to the red flags and the things along the way. So ultimately in 2010, we imploded. I imploded to the point that I thought I could save the company. I'd been involved in recessions in the past and had seen the market correct and the market bounce back. And I always thought, hey, 10, 12% correction, 17, 20 months, the market will bounce back. Well, that wasn't happening. 40% correction in the marketplace. My property values devalued 35 to 47%. I couldn't make payments. I couldn't pay the bills. I had some companies that were operating better than others, and I had 38 different companies. I had companies I should have just let to go to foreclosure, but because of who I am, I didn't want my investors to get hurt. So I tried to shore everything up. I thought, you know what, I can right this ship. Let me borrow some money from here, put it over here. When the market changes, I'll put it back. So I was moving money between companies, which really wasn't the problem. What the problem was that I didn't disclose to my investors what I was doing. So the whole thing imploded. I built a house of cards. The cards fell. I wound up being indicted on federal wire fraud and mail fraud charges as a result of that, and sentenced to a 10-year federal prison sentence.
Wow. And I can only imagine, first of all, thank you for sharing that, Mike. That is an amazing, amazing story. And I can only imagine, the lessons that came out of that experience and why you're now coaching today. If if you were to look at really the keys that who you were before and who you are today, what did you take forward from who you were and build this new person?
Yeah. So you said something interesting. What did I take forward? I don't think I took anything forward. I think I left it all behind.
Wow.
I went to prison and I had lost everything. I thought I was at the bottom. I got sentenced to 120 months. And you know that when you go to federal prison, that it's you're going to automatically do 85% as provided you don't get in any trouble, and that your good time is 15%. So I knew I was going to do 8.5 years behind the wall in federal prison. Um, I don't think I took anything with me. I went to prison, lost everything, thought my world couldn't get any worse, that it was the bottom of the bottom. Then all of a sudden, my wife decided that she was going to leave me and take everything else the feds didn't take.
Hmm.
Then my world was really over. I really had thought that that relationship would be okay because she said it would be, and we had built some things over a 2-year period that would, you know, take care of both of us while I was gone, and that didn't happen. That all went away. So now I'd gone from Jason making millions of dollars to the bottom of the bottom. I was living in a 2x5 locker. I had three green outfits and 5 pairs of underwear, and a pair of gym shoes that I could call my own. Everything else, there was nothing. And so each day was a tough day. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to mitigate my way through this time. A lot of great guys circle around you, help you, encourage you. One thing about prison is everybody's in it for the other guy. Nobody's really in it for themselves. There's not a lot of self-centeredness in prison like there is on the outside, which is kind of interesting.
Hmm.
I walk into the gym one day and some guys knew how bad I was, and that they were concerned about me. Um, Not sure if I was going to make it. And this kid walked up to me and he said, "Look, don't let these people beat you." He goes, "That's all they want to do is they want to take everything from you. But the only thing they can't take from you is what you got inside. You made millions in the past. You had a great life in the past. Go get it back. Don't let these people beat you." He says, "Look, show up here every day, work out, get your body back physically." I'd been about 30 pounds overweight. He said, and this was after running a couple of marathons, right? So I was pretty athletic at one point.
Hmm.
He goes, "Work on yourself physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally." And he goes, "When you go home, the finance piece will fall in place." Best advice I ever got, ever in my life.
Hmm.
So I started going to the gym every day. I started feeling better. I always talk about celebrating little successes, right? So I'd go to the gym. I'd get 5 days in at the gym. I was doing cardio. My cardio was getting better. I was losing weight. I was starting to lift weights. You know, listen, I came home at 63 years old in the best shape of my life physically. Could bench press more than I could when I was in high school, which is not a big deal, but I'm just saying, so my life changed. I went to college. I got a 4-year bachelor's degree in theology. I taught Bible study for 5 years in prison. And I just want to say that the only way I got through any of this was because of that relationship with Jesus and my Lord that, helped me through. Um, I worked out every day. I wrote 2 books while I was gone. I wrote 2 home study courses, one on multifamily investing and one on property management. I taught real estate for 5 years in prison. I I wrote an ethics course. I taught ethics for 5 years. I was on an outreach program. I went into the community 40 times over probably a 3-year period, talked to small business owners, local college students at the major colleges, University of Wisconsin, University of Minnesota, told my story. I tell my story today to, if I can touch one person. And I think as an entrepreneur, as a man, as a woman, as a business leader, somebody who runs a team, we sit on the edge sometimes and we wonder how we're going to mitigate our way through a storm in business. And if I make this decision, it could be a catastrophe. But if I make this decision, it could be even worse. So what do I do and how do I mitigate that? And if my story can help one person make a different decision or a different choice in their life, that's what I wanted to do. One of the other things I did was I wrote a ethics paper with a professor from the University of Minnesota that we just had published in the Business Journal of Ethics. But it's being taught at the college level for forensic accounting classes, for sales and marketing classes. So I did a lot while I was gone. I came home in better shape physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally than I'd ever been. And today I have a coaching and training business that I give away as much information as I possibly can. I work with people trying to help them, encourage them, help them scale their business and live a balanced lifestyle. I think that's what happens to so many of us is we start to, our life becomes unbalanced because we get dictated by our business, by the chase. Today it's not money for me. It's the success, the redemption, right? It's the ability to rebuild after a catastrophe. So
That is amazing, Mike. Thank you so much for all of that. And you know what? I have to correct you on something, and please forgive me for doing this, but you did take one thing forward, and that was your drive.
uh,
Because, again, even though it was somebody in prison that had to wake you up, it's obvious that you still had it.
yeah,
And that's what carried through, and that's what you have today. And I think, I only point that out because I think it's important for the listeners to recognize that who you were before was a very driven person, and that hasn't changed. But everything else was a transformation to become more in line with who you really wanted to be. And that's what I think makes you exceptional
yeah,
is the fact that, it's unfortunate, but, this learning lesson that you had really allowed you to shed away all of the unnecessary things that you may have thought were important or other people thought were important, and you now have everything you need to be successful, but you also have the right habits and the mastery of yourself to do it in a way that anybody who's working with you obviously is going to get maximum
yeah.
performance and results. So
Hey, and you bring a good point up, and I just want to share a little quick story if I
please.
can. But you talk about what's important, and I think one of the things I really realized when I was in prison is what's really important. And Jason, I think from a perspective of being a husband and a father, family's important. But what's even more important is that we pay attention to our wife or our spouse, right? And the example that I always give is that I never told my wife about business. We never talked about it because when things were bad, she'd get stressed or too worried. When things were good, she didn't understand.
Right.
Sorry, that's real raw, right?
No problem.
um, and so I just never shared that stuff. I went into
Yeah.
business with a guy who we'd been friends for 26 years. Our mantra was we'd take a bullet for each other. Well,
Yeah.
when it came right down to the shooting, it didn't happen that way. But I was in Cincinnati in 2008, getting ready to close an apartment deal. It was a 200 unit deal, 187 unit deal, and the funding wasn't coming from my office. And I finally get my partner on the phone at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The title company's getting ready to close. And and I said, he says to me, "Hey, I don't know how to tell you this." So now put yourself in a position where you're waiting for this funding and your partner says, "I don't know how to tell you this." And so he had
That's
moved
not good.
money. No, he had moved money from the escrow account to the business operating account. And he said, "I thought I could have it back by closing." He said, "I needed the money to cover some bills. We thought the money was coming back in. The money never came back. I wasn't able to cover it." I said, "You know, this was one of the fundamental conversations we had when we went into business. You never use somebody else's money for anything else, regardless." I said, "Look, I'll be back in a couple hours." I dry closed on that deal, which meant that we signed all the paperwork and it wasn't ours till we funded it. I said, "I'll have it funded by Tuesday." I went back home over the weekend. I was able to raise a little more money, get it funded on Tuesday. That was fine. But remember, I don't tell my wife about business. Friday night, my wife and I go out to dinner with my ex-partner and his wife. And on the way home from dinner, she says to me, "Hey, I don't trust him." Now she knows nothing about what just happened or what's going on. And what do I do as a good husband? I say, "Honey, don't worry about it. I have this under control." Well, I didn't have anything under control. And as a good husband, what I should have said was, "What don't you trust?" And found out a little bit more, a little bit deeper, to be a better husband. But fast forward about a week, I'm out to lunch with my legal counsel, not my I had an in-house legal counsel. This was my outside attorney. And he says, "I don't know why you're in business with this guy. He's doing some things I'm not real crazy about." And, and I had some good business advisors around me. I said,
Mhm.
"Oh, Bob, don't worry about it. I got this handled." And I didn't have anything handled, Jason. So what we tend to do is we tend to not pay attention to the people around us. We don't listen to the red flags. We don't watch the red flags. And all of a sudden, something happens and we're in this situation. So I tell that because I think we need to listen to those people in our life that are so close to us, our wives, our business associates, and, you know,
And our creator.
thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it's I think you make an incredible point, and this is something for our listeners to really recognize. Mike's not just, telling you a story because, it's a feel good story at this point, but you know, you're absolutely right. We tend to take for granted the people around us because we don't think they understand. And rather than recognizing that the relationship we have with them is one where intuition is very valuable, we tend to think that we have things under control that we don't. And the second part about that is the fact that we tend to forget about faith. And I understand that completely, Mike. That you're coming from a standpoint of you think that you can handle the situation, that you're Superman, and you forget about putting your trust in your Creator, you know beyond everything else, and really asking him for guidance. And if you don't step back and realize that that's where you also can really go wrong, because you start to think you're invincible and that you don't need anybody or anything else to really help you.
Right.
and
Right.
and I think that a big part of the exceptional life is being able to be humble, and recognizing that for everything that you're driven to do, you also have to respect that it's not all up to you. And you can also ask somebody else for help. And I
Yes.
think that that's what you're really inferring for our listeners, is that that help comes from everywhere, especially places that you may not think understand. But if you're willing to be a little bit more open and not give up on the conversation so easily, you might learn a thing or two.
Yeah.
So, Mike, that being said, what is it today with my core intentions that you really want the people that you work with to get from their experience with you?
Yeah, I do a couple of things, right? I'm in the multifamily apartment real estate space. I teach real estate investors, multifamily investors specifically, how to scale their business, how to either come in the business and get started. And as much as I work in a box and I have, 20 different things that I teach, from goal setting and team building and locating and sourcing off market deals to exit planning. And um, I also really design for what that individual needs. So I want people to know that you don't have to be stuck and you don't have to be in a box, that you can work outside of that box and to grow personally as well as professionally. So the whole goal is to help you scale your business and to do it while living a balanced lifestyle,
Hmm.
making sure that you're being open and authentic in what you're doing and
Hmm.
growing your business that way.
That's awesome. Where can people find you, Mike? How do they get in touch with you to get started?
Sure. First of all, Jason, I did write a book. It's called Exit Plan: Your Complete Guide to Multifamily Investing and Why You Need an Exit Plan Before You Buy. And I wrote that because I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaching and training and books and tapes and seminars over the years. And everybody always teaches us how to get in a deal. Nobody teaches us how to get out. So I wanted to come at it from a perspective, a different view, right, of why you get out of a deal, what's important about getting out, how to get out, right? Different strategies. Doesn't always mean you have to sell. So people can go get that book. Offer all your listeners, they can go download it for free. Go to mycoreintentions.com/exit plan, and you can download a copy of the book for free. And if you want to reach me, you can reach me at mike@mycoreintentions.com, or you can call me 312-600-8007 is my office number.
Mike, you've been through a tremendous journey, and it's been my privilege to have you on the show as well as be able to coach you. You recently went through the 28 Days of Exceptionalism challenge and completed successfully. What did that challenge do for you? And how did it how did it steer you towards an exceptional life?
Yeah. So here's what was interesting, right? I don't necessarily know that anything that you challenged us to do was anything outside of what I normally do. I
Mhm.
get up and exercise, uh, 6 days a week. I get up and I meditate, pray, journal. I journal, I write every day, right? I do those things that you had us do. But what was different was the accountability. There's something different about somebody holding you accountable to an end result, and the end result being that you do this and you're going to get a win from it. And the win is that you build self confidence, you build determination, you build a desire to do more. And I think that that's what happened. It gave me a bit of a twist to say, hey, you know what? I kept up with these daily disciplines, and it makes you want to continue them on and do more. Plus, you look around and you wonder, why doesn't everybody just live an exceptional life like this? You
That's an
know,
awesome question.
why doesn't everybody just celebrate their life like this?
Yeah,
Because that's what life's about. It's about celebrating where you're at and living in the moment.
you said it. I can't say it any better. Mike, this has been an absolutely wonderful experience and celebration with you, and thank you so much for the opportunity to have you on the show today.
Thanks, Jason. I really appreciate being here.
Awesome. Take care.